The league knew. They've known for forever what these, concussions and collisions are going to do to you. Same with the boxing. Boxing knew years ago. But it's not football. Right now they're kind of taking football out of football. It's a rough game. It's a tough sport, and it's gonna do damage to your body. And if you're willing to do it, you get paid very well. Well, they do now. I mean, I went through 2 strikes so these guys can make what they're making now.
Welcome to 2000% Raise, hosted by the man who took down billion-dollar companies while sitting at his kitchen table. John Cerasani. Left that big job in my 20s to become an entrepreneur. Everyone said I would fail, but I got winner in my core. Sold my company to private equity and the money poured. I got millions times galore. Not bad for a kid from Schaumburg, right?
All right, welcome to another episode of 2000% Raise. We were doing season after season before, and I was going to do one in the fall, but I encountered this gentleman recently, and we've stayed in touch, and I'm like, I'm going to do a bonus episode that's not even between the seasons because this is too damn good. We got the football season coming up. There's a lot of things in the news right now about the cannabis industry and where it's going. Did all these private cannabis entrepreneurs fall on their faces? Do they still have a chance to make money? The Bears just had a #1 draft pick at quarterback. A lot of things this person that I'm about to bring on could shed some light on. And if you're a Chicago sports fan, there's probably only one thing that's comparable to us claiming Michael Jordan. If you're in Chicago, we claim Michael Jordan. We're very proud of that. But if you're in my age bracket or above, you also claim the 1985 Bears, the best football team in the history of the NFL. We will put that up against anyone, just like we will put Jordan up against LeBron James. We will put up the 85 Bears against the 70s Steelers, against the Tom Brady Patriots, and anyone that you so choose to put them up against. And if you talk to anybody my age or above again, they could name pretty much all the superstars on that team. Walter Payton, The Fridge, Richard Dent, Mike Singletary, Willie Gault, Wilbur Marshall, the list goes on. But the center of attention was always the outspoken, punky QB, Jim McMahon, and he's my guest today. How you doing today, Jim?
Good morning, John. How's it going there in Chicago?
Man, it's all right. It's you're in Arizona. We got Arizona weather here today, man. It's like in the mid 90s lately. We got a little bit of a heat wave, I got to tell you.
We passed the 90s a month ago, kid.
You're the 90s in January.
Yeah, we're about 110 to 15 right now, which is great. Man. I love it. It's dry. You don't sweat all day long. I just came from Mississippi and Cancun, and it was brutally humid, sweating all day long. I hate that. At least here it dries up.
Cancun is the only place where I've actually truly gotten sun poisoning because it sneaks through the overcast where I'm like shivering and sweating at the same time. Sun poisoning is not a good thing. But Jim, let's speaking of Cancun, other end of Mexico is where you and me met. So if you let me humor the audience here for a second, I want to kind of give them that backstory because I don't think you fully know what's behind it. I'm in Cabo, San Lucas last December, and I'm with a person I'm with, and then my daughter and her boyfriend. And we decided, hey, we're going to rent a boat one day. And it was a couple days out. We ended up, for some reason, renting like this 80-foot yacht. It was awesome, way more than what we needed. And we're kind of like laughing at ourselves that, hey, we're going on this thing Thursday. There's only 4 of us. The captain's going to think we're a couple freaking morons. Why do you need this big boat to yourself? Chartered. And the universe spoke to us somehow because we're like, damn, it would have been cool if we had some people we knew in Cabo to come join us on this damn thing. Well, we stumble into this place called The Usual Suspects for a couple of drinks. It's a dive bar on the marina. A guy named Tomas runs the place. Awesome place if you've ever been to Cabo. And I mean, nothing special about it. It's literally like a dive bar on the marina, but they do it right over there. And we weren't supposed to go over there, man. We had dinner booked at the Office, which is a cool restaurant on the beach. And we just stopped in there for a drink to say what's up to Tomas, because I always see him when I'm there. And no one's in the bar. There's like maybe 3 people in there. And Tomas goes, hey, who won the who was the quarterback when the Bears won the Super Bowl last time? And I'm like, Jim McMahon. I thought, hello, everyone knows that. He goes, you mean that guy right there? And sure enough, Jim McMahon is sitting on the other end of the bar. Now, I've been blessed in the last year or so to have some kind of I guess you would say, kind of surreal types of experiences. All right. I had through all different circumstances too, by the way, but a lot of it was centered around my social media. I got to meet Hulk Hogan, childhood hero of mine. Had met Chevy Chase, had dinner with Charlie Sheen, just random shit that was really driven off of my social media. Well, this experience had absolutely nothing to do with social media. Jim had no idea who the fuck I was, and probably to this, even as I speak, has no idea what the fuck my following on Instagram's like, or nor does it give a fuck, probably. But Jim, just understand, I'm a pretty big fucking deal on Instagram, right, man? So
I've seen you all the time, kid.
Yeah, that's why I post like 5 times a day, right? But it was my relationship and being cool with this guy, Tomas, from going in there over the years and having a mutual respect for each other. He had no idea who I was. We're just kind of buddies just from hanging out at the bar. Well, he's friends with Jim. And like I said, we rented this 80-foot yacht. We got no one to go on this motherfucker with us. Well, it was like the universe spoke to us. So it was actually my daughter, who was 20 at the time, says to me, Dad, invite Jim and Tomas on the boat. And I'm like, it didn't even cross my mind, because to me, meeting Jim McMahon was such a surreal kind of thing in the first place. And I feel funny even telling this story, Jim, because we ended up spending the day together and we've been in touch since. So it's like I'm kind of like fanboying you now. But to go backward, at that moment, that's how I was feeling. And you know, the naiveness, if that's a word, naiveness of a 20-year-old not giving a fuck. Dad, invite him, because when my daughter, I'm a celebrity. My daughter, you know what I mean? Well, of course, go ask Jim McMahon if he wants to come on our boat. And you know what? We did. And the next day, Jim and Tomas were on the boat with us all freaking day. We had a blast. My brother is a huge Jim McMahon fan. Growing up, you know, he's 5 years older than me. Growing up, he had all the Jim McMahon posters on his wall and everything. Wore the number 9 when he played quarterback in college and everything else. And by the time we got off that boat, we're back at Usual Suspects. We all had a number of drinks throughout the day. Jim had a number of drinks and a few blunts or joints or whatever the hell you were smoking. I stay away from that stuff. And we decided to FaceTime my brother. My brother's a high school football coach. Jim's on the FaceTime with him. Again, we're a few drinks in at this point. We're going to get into this, but Jim has a leg injury right now. I'll never fucking forget it. He's on his crutch. It's too loud in the bar to hear my brother. So he's trying to get out, but he's on his crutch. And again, had a few drinks and a few joints. Falls while he's talking to my brother and just lays there on the ground, continuing to FaceTime with him. Well, so anyway, Tom, so I heard you coach football. It was one of those moments, man. We've talked about it in our family since, Jim. And you were such a nice guy. You were so gracious. So again, man, thanks for coming today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, brother. I had a great day on the boat too. That was an awesome boat. And of course, Tomas, you can't go to Cabo without going to see Tomas. He's been a great friend for a long time.
So you said you were in Cancun. Are you a guy that goes down to Mexico quite a bit?
At least once a year, as you met me down there when I used my timeshare.
Yeah. Well, that was Cabo, though. You said you were just in Cancun, too, right?
Yeah, I went down there for a golf event, and actually a friend of mine owns a stem cell clinic down there, so I got a few stem cells in my shoulder and my foot. Okay. Hopefully those things will kick in here soon, and I can start walking. And it's been 2.5 years since I've walked normally. And, it's just been a hectic summer so far, and it's only going to get worse as far as the travel is concerned.
Oh, really? Okay. But see, that's something I wanted to get to later. Let's just get there right now because you said it. Now, when we had met, now I'll let Jim get into as much as he wants to, but he had this leg injury, and you would think that all the shit this guy's has been through, from the injuries in football to, you know, if you pay attention to the media, there was probably some lifestyle concerns to Jim. He ends up having this fucking injury from none of the above, and ended up being an infection from a surgery or something, right?
Correct. Yeah, I just had a pretty simple surgery to take some bone off my ankle and a couple of spurs, and 4 days later, my foot exploded, and so they had to do a couple emergency surgeries. And they said if the infection got up to my knee, they're taking my leg off. And so I was a bit concerned then, and they did stop the infection, thank God. And then, but my foot had a huge open gash on the top, and it took 7 months and 7 skin grafts for that to heal.
Wow.
And the foot couldn't move for damn near a year. And so now it's just locked in place. And just trying to break up that scar tissue and doing whatever I can to just get some mobility.
Yeah. And you know, where we had left it too, you had told me, so we're in June right now, Jim, you had told me in December you were meeting with these stem cell guys, and if the news ain't good by February, they might amputate it still. You still have it. So is that going the right direction, or?
You know, I just told them because they talk about doing another, an ankle replacement, something else. And I said, look, if you're going to do another surgery that might not be, might not work anyway, I said, just cut the damn thing off. I don't need it. Nobody chased me anymore. I've got some friends that had it done, and they said, hey, best thing they ever did. There's no more pain. They can run, swim, do whatever they want. And some of those feet are pretty cool looking too.
Well, yeah, I got to think you've been like this, what, you said a couple years now?
It's been 2.5 years. Yeah.
So you were 2.5 years not being able to use the foot. So you could say if you had the prosthetic on there, the quality of life would probably be better if you had that at this point.
Well, I just want to be able to walk without the pain. It's just, I can't really do anything. I can't really work out much because the foot doesn't bend. So I can't really work my quads and work the way I'm used to working out. And so, so everything's just kind of shriveling away. I have no calf. I can't, make the calf work because I can't bend my feet. So it's been a struggle, but hell, it's leg's still there, and I'm still here too. So
yeah,
just press on.
Well, God bless, man. I hope it works out either way for you, man. You got an optimistic attitude about it, and you were so open with me and my daughter and everyone. We were asking you a million questions and stuff, and you were just so forthcoming and stuff, man. I really appreciated that because to my daughter, you're just a name she's heard me and her uncle talk about. She don't know who the fuck you are. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to give her context.
Most people weren't even born by the time I retired. So
yeah. Well, one of the things that I got from you, and then now from following you on Instagram, that I think is really interesting. All right, you make a good point that you're 2-time Super Bowl champion, and a lot of people scratch their head. Well, wait. You had a career after the Bears guys, and you might not like this if you're a Bears fan. He talks about being Brett Favre's backup on the Packers as one of his Super Bowl champions, and he puts it right there side by side with that Chicago one. And Jim, it feels like to a degree, I don't know if animosity is the right word or the way you left Chicago or whatever, but it feels like to me, if I'm Jim McMahon, dude, I'm opening a fucking restaurant in River North. I'm here every day shaking hands on the street. I personally have emceed a number of autograph shows. The Dan Hamptons of the world, the Mike Singletaries of the world are at every single, Devin Hester for more recent guys that are every single one of them. I don't see you at any of them. Have you purposely distanced yourself from the Chicago organization, or is this just perception and not reality?
Well, I left Chicago 15 years ago, living in Arizona. I still get back there. I'll be back there on Thursday this week, and be there till July 2nd and working on my foot. And, I love my time with the Bears. I love my teammates. Yeah. But I played 8 more years after I left Chicago. They thought it was done. So I was glad to be able to, it took me a couple of years to go to the Packers. I could have gone there a few years earlier, but there was a lot of bad blood. I mean, when we played against the Packers back in, from the time I got there in 82 until I left in 89, it was those were bloody wars. The Packers, they weren't very good, but they always gave us a hell of a time just because, that's the rivalry. It's the oldest rivalry in the NFL. So it took me a couple of years to get up there, but I'm glad I did. The fans treated me well. And being with Mike Holmgren, I think he was an excellent coach, and I didn't have to do a hell of a lot. I don't think I sweated in the year and a half I was there. So. Brett liked to take every rep, which was fine with me. I was not a big rep guy in practice. But it was nice to be able to finish my career and getting a really nice ring out of it as well.
For those that don't remember, those who are younger that aren't aware, go onto YouTube and Google cheapest shot in the history of the NFL. It was by a defense. What was his name? Charles Martin.
Charles Martin.
Yeah. Charles Martin.
We'll never forget that.
Yeah, you want to tell that story for the audience?
Well, the play was basically, it was, like I said, there was a lot of bad blood between the Bears and the Packers back then. And Coach Ditka and their coach, Forrest Gregg, did not like each other. And that trickled down to the players. And this guy, he had a towel, one of those towels in front of his uniform that day, and he had a bunch of numbers on it. It was his hit list, These are the guys he wanted to take out. So they were looking for a shot. I thought I'd see it coming. I thought somebody would maybe try to hit me late, which they did a lot. But I never even felt this guy behind me. He was right there. And by the time I realized that he had his arms around me, my head was already hitting the ground. I mean, he just kind of souffled me. And people think he dropped me on my shoulder. I mean, the shoulder was the second thing to hit. This part of my head was the first thing to hit that soldier field. And to this day, that's been the biggest problem or cause of the problems I'm having with my head and my neck. And so the doctor says the only way your head and neck can get screwed up this bad is be dumped on it. And I said, I could show you the film. And he since have seen the film, and he goes, well, that's probably, you've been probably suffering since then. And so, it was not a fun experience.
Well, and when you say cheap shot, I mean, this is a really cheap shot. You watch the ball leave Jim's arm going downfield. The defensive, he was defensive end, I think, right? He's watching the ball in the air, and then turns his head back towards Jim and grabs him and body slams him. Do you think that was your first concussion?
No, it definitely wasn't my first concussion, but it was one of quite a few, that's for sure.
Yeah. And where are you at with the whole head injury? One of your teammates, left his brain for study because of the whole CTE thing, and after he committed suicide. Dave Dorson, one of the stars on that team, and I've seen the movie Concussion with Will Smith. Could you just kind of talk a little bit, Jim, about maybe your personal position with this and just what you think of the league in general? Because when we think about the NFL being too big to fail, and yet you look back 20 years or whatever the hell it was when Major League Baseball almost went away because of steroids, this was kind of a reality that could really happen. And I just look at this whole thing with the NFL where ignorance is one thing, but if they knew, and there was NFL highlights tapes coming out with the biggest hits of the year, and if you watch those things in the 90s and before, defensive backs, I played with defensive backs at Notre Dame, my friend, that never learned to tackle with their arms. They were like going and hitting people with their heads. That's the only way they knew how to tackle. And when the NFL changed this rules in 08 or 09, whenever the hell it was, I'm watching this thing. I go, these guys ain't going to know how to tackle. And that first year, remember how many damn penalties there were left and right? These kids never learned to tackle with their arms. It's the way, So this whole idea that the NFL didn't know this, or you know what I mean? Look, to me, the only way the NFL would have came down on it is if they actively ignored it because they know that it would make the game less exciting. And now this year coming up, you have the change in rules of the kickoff returns. Well, no shit that you shouldn't have kickoff returns with guys running 50 yards down the field full blast at each other. No shit. I could have told you this freaking in 1995 when I was a freshman in college. You don't want to be in that freaking wedge. You got any comments on all this, man?
Well, I was actually with Dave Dorson about a month before he passed away. And, to me, he was pretty much the same. He wasn't as boisterous and loud as he usually was, but then to hear what had happened to him, because we talked a little bit. We were actually on a boat somewhere. I think it might have been in the Bahamas. And he said, I've really been struggling, having a hard time, finding my way home from the kids' school, this and that. And then I hear about it a month later, and I'm like, how could you, somebody feel that bad to take their own life? And then I started having the same kind of symptoms, forgetfulness, pain in my head. I would lay in my room for weeks at a time in a dark room, just laying down. And my friend at the time would say, "Hey, you going to get out of bed today?" I said, "Do I have to do anything? Do I have to make an appearance?" No, I'm not going anywhere. And I had those same kind of thoughts. I mean, your head starts hurting so bad, and you know, you can't remember. You walk into a room, you can't remember why the hell you walked in there, and it was brutal. And then I understood, you know, the pain and suffering that these guys are going through. And so, thank God I didn't have a weapon, or I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
But yeah, the league knew. They've known for forever. You know, what these, you know, concussions and collisions are going to do to you. Same with the boxing. Boxing knew years ago. But it's, you know, it's not football. You know, right now they're kind of taking football out of football. You know, it's a rough game. It's a tough sport, and it's gonna do damage to your body. And if you're willing to do it, you know, you get paid very well. Well, they do now. I mean, I went through 2 strikes so these guys can make what they're making now. But yeah, everybody, you know, when I went into the league, everybody knew you're going to have, you know, bad knees, bad shoulders, you know, feet, but nobody ever talked about, you know, your head and the damage to your brain that you're doing. And so, you know, what they're trying to do, I understand it, but you're never going to take collisions out of the sport. You know, offensive linemen do it every play. They have to use their head. And, you know, your brain it's sitting on fluid. It's not connected to anything. So anytime it stops, your body stops suddenly, your brain's going to hit out of your head. And when it hits it at that kind of force, to me, the collisions weren't that bad. It's when you hit the ground, because the ground does not give. And, you know, it's especially that turf back in the 80s and the bad fields that we played on and all those, the places. I mean, it just, the turf does not give. And so your brain is going to slam into the side of your head, and it's going to cause damage. And some people heal quicker than others. But, you know, I understand what they're doing, but they're really taking football out of football.
Yeah. You know, that's funny they say that about the turf. I remember playing at University of Illinois my senior year, and it was like we might as well have been playing in a parking lot. That turf was so damn hard, man. And it's, you see what the kids have now, even at the high schools. It's like, where was this shit 30 years ago, man? You know what I mean?
I remember the Astrodome. I mean, they used to have like truck pulls there the day before and rodeos and stuff. And so it was basically, you can see the concrete through the felt. I mean, sometimes there would be 2 or 3 inch strips of concrete right in the middle of the field. And it was brutal.
Well, you know, and you made a rather good point there about the damn linemen. A lot of people, you know, third parties or people that are maybe, you know, onlookers don't realize it. And I volunteer over at the high school. My dad coached that over here, and kind of like just I'm a friend of the program kind of thing. And I'll go, you know, meet with the kids and help them in practice every once in a while. But, you know, we're supposed to, especially at the high school level, they stress, don't hit with your head. You can't teach them that way. Well, you go ask any offensive lineman or defensive lineman that's been in a run situation, like you can't not use your head. You can't come off the line and just hit with your hands. Your head's going to hit first every damn time. So if you're a lineman and got a concussion, if you don't know anything about concussions, it gets worse and worse. It's easier to get the second one now, and then it's easier to get the third one because everything's loosening up. Jim, was there any lawsuits or anything like that, or any settlements that you've been a part of with that kind of stuff?
Well, I was actually one of the named plaintiffs on the concussion lawsuit. And I was flat out denied. They said, no, he's not impaired enough. I've gone through so many psych evals in the last, 10 years because I keep having these symptoms. The reason I'm heading to Chicago is it's on my way to Albany, where I'm going to see my doctor on Thursday, get an adjustment. I haven't seen him in about 6 months, and I usually go every 4 to 5. So I'm starting to have some headaches, so I give him a call, and he says, all right, I'll meet you Thursday. So, it's just, I just forgot what the hell I was talking about, but what was that question? Talking about my hand. My memory is pretty much gone. I can remember 30, 40 years ago, but like yesterday.
No, brother, but you just made the damn point that we're making here right now. I had asked you if you're, if you had joined the settlement and the lawsuit or whatever, and they said you got denied because of your psych evaluations, you passed them, and here you are, you just forgot what the fuck you were talking about in the middle of a sentence. So what exactly happens on these psych evaluations?
It's just tedious tests they give you. It's, they ask you the same questions over and over again. And I guess if you answer enough right, then they say, oh, he's fine.
Yeah.
But I asked, could I take these tests while I'm having one of my episodes? I said, well, I'm basically a vegetable, just laying in my room. And, oh no, we have to evaluate you when you're coherent. And I'm like, well, then that's exactly why they choose you people for the NFL. They're independent people.
Yeah. Well, that sucks, man. That sucks. But let's I wanted to make sure I addressed a couple things here. One of the things you had told me about there's an urban legend in Chicago that, and for those that don't know, part of the reason the 85 Bears are as famous as they are here is they did a little ditty called the Super Bowl Shuffle, which is still played at bars across Chicago. And if you watch the video to the Super Bowl Shuffle, all right, Walter Payton and Jim McMahon, the two biggest stars on the team, are not with the guys dancing. They're not in any of the choruses or scenes that everyone else is in. And when they're on the screen, the technology wasn't there like it is now. You could kind of tell they were superimposed with the other people in the background. So the legend in Chicago, Jim, is that you guys lost to the Miami Dolphins that year. That was your only loss of the season. And the filming of the Super Bowl Shuffle was the next day. And you and Walter, this is what the media ran with. This is what everybody thinks. You and Walter didn't think it was right to go do this stupid music video about winning the Super Bowl when you just lost to the Dolphins. You can't do it. It just ain't right. Is that how it went down?
Not at all. When we were approached to do this project, it was, hey, we're gonna make a record. This was the deal. We're gonna make a record, the Super Bowl Shuffle record, and then the proceeds were gonna go to feed the homeless on, I think it was Thanksgiving or Christmas, whatever that next holiday was gonna be, and which we thought was a good thing for Chicago. And so we did our parts. The guys that had speaking parts, we went to studio, did our parts. And then about a week or two later, they approached us again. And they said, now you have to make a video. And we're like, what? They go, oh, yeah, every time you do a song now, you have to make a video. And then we were like, no, that wasn't the deal. The deal was we're going to make a record. And so Walter and I both said, we're not going to be involved in the video. And so then, of course, like you just said, they filmed it the night or the next day after we lose to Miami. We get home probably 3 or 4 in the morning from Miami. These guys got to be there at 8 or 9 in the morning. And I think they were there for about 8 or 9 hours doing their whatever they did. And so a week or two after they filmed that, we got approached right before practice one day and said, hey, if you guys don't do this, your parts, we're going to have to sue you. So it was what you see on that screen is a pissed off white dude in the racquetball court at Hallis Hall doing whatever I did. And Walter as well. But it was we had to do it after practice one day. So we were both kind of pissed off. And we did it. And, people still talk about it. Like you said, they still play it. When they introduced me at different events, they play that song. And, I didn't write I'm the Punky QB. I don't know where the hell that line even came from. I'd given myself a bad haircut that year in training camp. And, I guess I became a punk rocker. I don't know where they came from. But, people, like I said, they still talk about it. It just won't go away.
See, you see that story right there.
Pretty ballsy, though, to do that. We still had 5 games left to play, or 4 or 5 games left to play in the season. And so to put that out there, we knew, hey, we better win it now. We're going to look like a bunch of assholes.
look like a real dickhead.
Now we look pretty cool doing it,
Yeah, that's some confidence. Well, and you guys you and Walter not showing up to that thing for the video. That sounds like something Jim McMahon would do. That doesn't sound like something that would be in line with Walter Payton. Is the outside of that though, is what everyone says about Payton, about being a leader, being the hard worker, being everything that, football stands for, is all that true as a teammate of his?
No doubt about it. He was a great football player, great guy, great teammate. He worked his ass off. I mean, he worked. He didn't do it around Hallis Hall. He had that hill behind his house, or wherever it was, he used to run up and down. And he tried to get me to run up there one time. I said, no, if I got to run that far, we're going to lose. So that's your job.
Yeah,
But
that's out. I think that's in Barrington, Illinois. I think it's somewhere out here. That's where he lived. I live out here now. People talk about it. I don't know exactly where that hill is, but that's the legend, right?
still the strongest guy I've ever met. He was probably maybe 5'10", 210 pounds of just rock, and he did not like to be tackled. I saw him make some of the greatest 30-yard runs that only gained a yard or two. He would bounce sideline to sideline and just did not want to be tackled. And he was a lot of fun to play with. He could do it. He could run, he could catch, he could block, he could throw. Whatever you ask of him, he would do.
That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. And I had dinner with Mike Singletary once just randomly and asked him who the toughest guy on the team was. And he said Dan Hampton. And then he corrects himself. He goes, wait, you mean offense and defense? I go, yeah, the whole team. He goes, oh, Walter Payton. Easy. Hands down. Not even close. Pretty cool. Pretty cool, man. Well, listen, man, you touched on it a little bit with, the strikes. And this is a business kind of related show here. What I've always looked at the guys that are doing these outings, that are doing, especially in your age category, guys that played when you did, there wasn't a bunch of guys walking away as this is enough money to let me live this lavish lifestyle the rest of my life if I live another 40 years. Is there this whole autograph market, sports memorabilia market, and just the way I see these guys showing up to this stuff? I was just at one, Bo Jackson's there. You know what I mean? You got guys that I think my perception is at least, hey, we made as much money as we could in those 8 years or whatever we played, some of them less, some of them more. But these autograph shows and shit, yeah, maybe it's only 10 grand here or 5 grand there, but we need that shit, man. Especially if you didn't go get some regular corporate job afterward. Am I looking at that the right way?
No, there's a lot of guys that played when I did. They had jobs right after they retired. I've been very fortunate. I worked my 15 years in the NFL and I did well with my money. I didn't make a lot on football. I probably made more off the field than I did playing. And was very fortunate to do a lot of commercials, did some, bit parts in movies. And I got to do some other things. I was able to raise my 4 kids, put them all through college and on the salary that I was making. And so I live comfortably. I'm not overly extravagant. I don't have a whole bunch of cars. I got 1 car. I got a small house. I live comfortably. But I love going to the shows and making a little extra money here and there. Always helps, especially if you get taxed on everything around here. It's damn.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Are you still getting recognized every time you leave the house in a public place?
A lot of times, yeah.
Yeah.
I get a lot of stares thinking, is that really him, the old bald-looking guy? Yeah. But
what? Well, you were very welcoming to it. You seemed very open to it when I came up to you at that bar that day. And again, thank you for that. And Tomas kind of gave us a little bit of confidence. He goes, no, trust me, you could go up to him. He don't care. So
no, fans have always treated me great. There's sometimes there's a guy that you'd rather just punch in the face, but for the most part, the people have been great, and I don't mind taking pictures and BSing like we did. I mean, it's just. We're just a couple guys sitting at the bar having a good time.
We'll talk about fans that like you here, and then I'm going to switch gears too because I want to get into your cannabis company here before we wrap it up. But one of my childhood memories, man, is when the Bears traded you, and I want to say it's like a Tuesday during like preseason, and they trade you to the Chargers. And that following weekend, you guys were playing the damn Chargers, and somehow you end up dressing for the game. I don't even know if did you even practice with them yet, but it was at Soldier Field at Chicago. And McMahon comes into the damn game as the Chargers quarterback, and the whole stadium's cheering for him. Because McMahon and Ditka had the coach and the organization had kind of like this going on here for a while. So it was like, all right, the end is near. It's going to happen one day. Where's it going to go? But the city still liked McMahon. You know what I mean? And then then you left, and I think we had Mike Tomczak, and then eventually Jim Harbaugh, who's all over the place now, right? As the Chargers head coach now, would bring it full circle, right? But I gotta say, man, when the fans got behind you in the stadium, man, that was a moment. Had you even practiced with them yet?
No, in fact, the Bears traded me. I think it was the Chargers were coming to town for that weekend preseason game, so they waited to trade me like the day before. So they saved a plane ticket for me to go to San Diego. Chargers came in. I went over to their hotel. I met with the coaches. I sat. In fact, one of the coaches was my coach in college. My quarterback coach, Ted Tollner. He was our offensive coordinator then in San Diego. So we talked. He showed. I said, just give me 2 or 3 plays because I want to play tomorrow night. And so I had a couple of plays that they gave me, and which every offense is basically the same. It's just a different terminology. So I understood what they were trying to do, and when I came out on the field, the fans cheered, and the fans have always treated me well in Chicago. They know who plays hard, right? If you just play hard there, they're going to love you, and you play hard and you win it, they're going to love you forever, and it's been proven. I mean, it's been almost 40 years, and it's tough to buy a beer in Chicago. People have always treated me well. So I came out. I think I threw a couple balls that first series, and then the coach says, "All right, that's enough. Get out." Because I didn't know any. We ran the same 3 plays. So, it was. But that was the funny part. They waited until they knew the Chargers were coming, and I could just get on the team plane and go back with them, save themselves a ticket.
Dude, that's freaking hilarious, man. That's hilarious. Well, one of the funny things, and I don't know if you're going to admit it or not, Jim, but I gotta think, it's a very common theme in Chicago bars. We haven't had a good quarterback on the Bears since Jim McMahon, and we've had hints that we think we're going to have a good one. Justin Fields most recently. Before that, Jay Cutler, but it always came back to we haven't had a good damn quarterback since McMahon. And are you secretly, Jim, hoping the Bears quarterback sucks so you keep holding that title?
Well, I mean, it's not about the QBs. I mean, people think, I know they did well supposedly with their skill people in the draft this year. But how good is their offensive line? I have no idea. I don't watch the game. I just know Fields was running a lot last year from what I saw.
Right.
So it doesn't matter who your skill guys are. Your running back, your receivers. If those guys up front are not doing their job, because you can't do yours as a quarterback without those 5 guys. And when I first got to Chicago, we struggled because our offensive line was not that good. But 83 and 84, we started turning around. And then, once those guys started gelling, they were the best offensive line in football. I think we led the league in rushing 4 straight years, which had never happened before. And it hasn't happened since. And that's a credit to those guys because everybody knew we were going to run it. And we still were able to do that. And so until that offensive line is solid, who knows how good they're going to be.
Well, it's funny. So at least temporarily right now, Chicago fans have memory loss. We all of a sudden forgot about Mitch Trubisky. We forgot about Cutler. We forgot about Cade McNown, if you want to go back that far. we forgot all about all of them. And Caleb Williams is going to change everything. People think he's that good. So we shall see. But you talk about this new generation of quarterbacks, Jim, and I let my brother, and then we're going to get into the weed stuff here in a second. But my brother, I said, hey, give me a good question to ask Jim on the podcast. Like I told you, he's had your posters all over his wall and everything growing up as a kid. And I looked up to my brother and he looked up to you. So we definitely, you mean something in our family, man. If my parents were still here, I think they would think it's the coolest thing in the world that I'm talking to you right now, man. So again, thanks, brother. I really appreciate this. Yeah. So my brother said, again, we don't know what's urban myth and what's reality, but the story was that you'd take your O-line out for dinner every week. Obviously a great leadership move. Everybody wasn't really doing that back then. Do you think nowadays with just the way the world works with, the agendas and the media and the social media, do you think quarterbacks still value or have that type of relationship with their offensive linemen?
I really don't know. I didn't take them out every week. I mean, we all had our own weeks. It's, You know, whoever turn was to buy, they would pick the restaurant and we'd go. It wasn't like I was buying every week. I couldn't afford it. I mean, hell, I was paying for the Bears. I mean, they weren't paying me very much money. You know, I had a couple small kids. I mean, and I was getting fined by the league. I couldn't, spare any extra. So but it was a great relationship. Those guys were awesome. Do anything for them, and they do anything for me at this point as well. So.
Yeah. The camaraderie. I mean, it seemed like you guys were friends. Is that right? Like you guys all kind of got along. Yeah.
We're still friends. I still see Jimbo Covert quite a bit. Keith Van Horn, Kurt Becker. I saw my last trip in Chicago. I haven't seen. I don't know where Bortzy is. He's probably on a farm killing something out there, wherever he's at. But yeah, I always had a good relationship with my O-line because they're my lifeblood. Like I said, if they don't do their job, they can make it very tough on a QB. They just say, "Oops, I slipped there," and let the guy pound your ass. And so you don't want to ever be in that situation.
Yeah. I just think about the camaraderie with your teammates and stuff, and it's funny, man. Just the way college football now has shifted. It's become like the part of the struggle was like riding the fucking bench and pouting on the bench and hoping to get on the field and going with those ups and downs. And in college football now, I'm benched. I'm going to just transfer. I don't got to sit out a year. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Which is a lot of ways that people approach the NFL nowadays, at least instead of back then. But let's talk about the marijuana, man. I wanted to hook. Me and Jim had this great time together in December. We're both in Las Vegas at the same damn time over the Super Bowl. That's when I was doing all that blackjack stuff with Burt Kreischer and everything else. If you haven't been to a Super Bowl weekend in the host city, there's a lot of shit going on, man. I've been to Miami when the Bears were in, and I was at Arizona LA a few years ago, Arizona last year, or 2 years ago, and then Vegas this year. It's just such an experience, even if you're not even going to the game. Just shit going on left and damn right. So Jim and I didn't end up hooking up when he was there, and again, it was only a couple months after we had just hung out. And we were texting probably weekly, and it just didn't make any sense because you were promoting the shit out of your marijuana business. So could you kind of tell our audience what you got going on with that?
Yeah, I've been trying. When I first moved out here to Arizona, they were legalizing it medically, and I was trying to get in the business. But I tell you, there's a lot of shady characters in this business. So you basically got to weed them out. No pun intended. And and then I got a call from Kyle Turley, an ex-offensive lineman who played in the NFL for quite a few years. And he was in the CBD business, and he was just getting into the THC part of it. And I knew I could trust him. And also Eben Britton was our partner, Ricky Williams. And so our company's called Revenant. We're in, I believe, 7 states right now. Illinois is one of them. We're moving our way east, trying to get into all 37 legal states by the end of this year. And it's been a struggle. It's still because of the way the taxes are in the country on cannabis. Ricky Williams and I were actually back at Congress, I think it was a month and a half ago, walking the halls of Congress, talking to senators, congressmen about, rescheduling cannabis, fair banking or safe banking, fair taxation. They've got cannabis in Schedule I drug, which is ridiculous. It's not even a drug. It's a medicinal herb. But and they've got fentanyl in Schedule II. I mean, how many people has fentanyl killed? Cannabis has never killed anybody. And plus we all have a cannabinoid system in our bodies. We're supposed to be using this plant. We don't have a Percocet or a Vicodin or an Oxycontin or an alcohol system in our bodies. We have a cannabinoid system. And that's what, this plant's all about. I mean, it heals you from within. And a lot of these places, they want you taking their pills and all they do is mask pain. They don't help you at all. Whereas cannabis actually is good for your body.
Wow. That's, what? You just dropped some gems there, man. I could see why they didn't qualify you as needing the disability for the mental stuff, man. You were pretty sharp there with everything you just said. You just taught me a couple of things.
Well, I still had my issues, but I told the lady I was just I had a 5.5 and a 7.5 hour test, 2 days apart. And I told the woman, look, I can function fairly normally, but when I'm having one of my, when my spinal fluid or cerebral spinal fluid starts getting blocked off and pooling in my head, it's not fun at all. And that's when I become a vegetable. So,
yeah.
But cannabis has definitely helped me.
Really? And I didn't realize Ricky Williams was one of your partners. There must be a kind of a, did you ever have a conversation about, because Mike Ditka and you didn't get along, and I want to say Ditka was the biggest Ricky Williams fan on the planet for a couple of years. You both played for him.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, he gave up 11 picks for Ricky.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I thought if the Bears were smart, they would have did the same with this pick. You know, they could have traded it and got 6 or 7 guys that can, you know, help you right away. And but you know, it's all in the past now.
Yeah, exactly. I said the same thing. Just keep Justin. Like Kayla will, just keep Justin Fields. He's decent, and let's just get as much as we can and give up that pick. But anyway, what's the name of your company again, Jim?
It's called Revenant. It was like a movie. In fact, that's why Kyle named it Revenant. It was after the movie. He goes, "Hey, man, you remember when he got mauled by the bear, and then that dream sequence, the Indian was feeding him, you know."
Yep.
That was we believe that was cannabis. That saved his life. It brought him back. And this is what this plant has done for all of us, the guys that are in the industry. Awesome. And then could the consumers get their hands on it now, or they have to go through certain avenues? We're in, I don't know, I can't remember all the names of the dispensaries that we're in Illinois, but we're around. It's got some new my Mac 9 line is out. I can't even remember all the products. I mean, I've tried them all, but they're all good. So if you're in the mood, get out there and purchase some of that. It'll definitely change your way of thinking.
Awesome. Well, this has been great, man. I can't thank you enough. And for everybody out there in the 2000% Raised community that tuned in and listened to the whole episode, just understand this was a really good one for me. Hope you guys appreciate it as much as I did. And Jim, let's stay in touch, my friend.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'll see you this weekend in Chi-Town somewhere.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. That concludes another episode of 2000% Raised with your host, John Cerasani. Make sure you're following on all social media platforms. Chi.